Mac, tell me about the Cosmic Summit.
Hey, I was just fixing to, since nobody's hands were up. I had a good time yesterday. A little boring here and there. Rebecca's just eating it up. She's into this stuff. Oh, you're kind of into it too. You know immediately who Randall Carlson was when she posted a picture of him.
Yeah, that's one of those people I would have to write shit down before I go talk to, because I'd
Yep.
just be like, hi.
Yep.
Yeah. I blow it.
It's she nerds out on it big time. I mean, I'm into it because of her. The first thing that got me into it was like geometry and celestial navigation, because I'm into that kind of stuff. And she was talking about gyroscopic precession. So gyroscopic precession. So the Earth spins on an axis, but the thing is, it moves like a top too. And a lot of us don't know that. And one revolution of this top takes about, I think it's 25,000 years, something like that. So in the span of 25,000 years, the stars appear differently. You could do the same day. Let's take Christmas night. For most of us, the stars are in the same place at Christmas night at 9 p.m. When we go out. If we had some kind of calibrated machine that was on the same angle, they'd be in the same place. But over time, if you keep records, those stars will change positions in the night sky. There were freaking civilizations that were key to this, like pre-freaking history. And I think the other thing that's fascinating is we take it with a grain of salt. History is written, and therefore it is what it is. And the keepers of the gate don't want it changed. But there's always new research. There's always developing research and new discoveries. And when we see something built, like, for instance, let's take the Great Pyramids. How are they built? Well, it's slave labor. That's freaking absolute horseshit, man. It's absolute horseshit. And then, you look at, and this wasn't that long ago. We're going back further when we talk like prehistory, but it's fascinating the level of technology that people had like prehistory, prior to anything being written. And a lot of it was, prior to the younger Dryas era, that ice age. What's out 12,000 years ago? When we went to school, CJ and I, for instance, it was 6,000 years ago, caveman, today space shuttle, just like that. But it dates way before that, where there were actual civilizations. And it's being discovered more and more. The biggest one is that Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. If you look that up, it is absolutely freaking fascinating. So the gatekeepers now are changing the meaning of hunter-gatherers to meet the designs built by these civilizations prehistory. When you look up Göbekli Tepe and you look at the structures that were built and the 9-ton freaking megaliths that were erected and the carvings and everything, the keepers of the crypt will say that these were all built with brass age and stones and rubbing stones together and shit like that. Man, they had to have like tools, sophisticated tools, but all that shit was eradicated after some kind of cataclysmic event during the Younger Dryas, almost like it was a mass extinction event, and then it threw us back into the Stone Age. So it's freaking absolutely fascinating. When you look at some museums, even in Egypt, will display a vase and call it pottery. But the archaeologists of now will say, this is not pottery. This was made out of a single piece of stone or marble. And it's absolute perfection. The horizontal lines from top to bottom are within tolerances of like 1,000th of an inch. Today we can't even do that shit today, probably. And who knows what it was when it comes to technology and stuff like that and tools. Like, I think that most of us are too narrow-minded to consider alternative means of power and propulsion, those kind of things. I speculate, this is just because I've been into it for some time now, I speculate that they could have been using maybe harmonics and sound, that kind of thing. That's just my speculation, when Rebecca and I talk, because, and I was telling her, when you hit a hard E on your guitar, an electric guitar, and you watch your cell phone glide across a smooth surface because that thing is vibrating, Why couldn't that been replicated thousands of years ago? I don't know. You could speculate your ass off on this. I think the ridiculous thing, but who knows, is that aliens help build this stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't buy that. I just think that we had a knowledge base back then that doesn't exist now, and it was probably by accident how most discoveries and inventions are made, and that knowledge base has been basically wiped off the map because of a cataclysmic type of event. I 100% believe in the that cataclysmic type of event that wiped out, the big mammals and the woolly mammoths and the great mammoths and the giant sloths and the saber-toothed cats and all that stuff, because they were all eradicated sort of in the same time period. Are there any other nerds here into this shit that can elaborate on? I mean, all right, yep, good. Jason's a nerd like that too, but it's absolutely freaking fascinating. And the guys speaking at this are world renowned. They came from everywhere, from the UK, from Australia. They're from all over the world. They're archaeologists, they're astronomers, mathematicians, they're scientists, and some of them, like Graham Hancock, are just journalists. Graham Hancock, he's probably the most famous one that was supposed to be at this summit. He did not show. So he was the big money draw for this summit. There were supposed to be like 600 people attending, and it turned out to be only 4 because a lot of them asked for their money back after Graham Hancock said he wasn't going anymore. Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson have been on Joe Rogan like a half dozen times each, and a couple times in unison. Those podcasts are absolutely fascinating. They're spectacular. I think the first one that Randall Carlson did was maybe 2015. I talked to him yesterday. We were chatting. Nicest guy in the world. Just a big, gigantic hippie, but the guy's got an absolute 50-pound brain when it comes to this stuff. And he's got decades and decades and decades of research. I mean, Rebecca and I are going to be talking about it nonstop. When she comes back off this thing, she's going to be blah, 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 just dumping her knowledge on me, and I'm just going to sit here over in that chair and listen to every word she has to say. But she's got it down, man. She knows all of this stuff. I mean, anything that I just rattled off is a Reader's Digest version of what I have learned from her, and some of it is probably a little tainted. It's probably not accurate, but man, I just think it's cool as hell. We're at an age right now where history is it's sort of being rewritten, and mainstream archaeologists are they're saying, all right, well, there's too much evidence. We have to go along with the emerging science and these are, I call it emerging science, but a lot of these discoveries were in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but it's still emerging science. It's cool as hell. Speakers were really good. They're still looking for the lost city of Atlantis, because they absolutely believe 100% that it exists. And why shouldn't it? Because during the Ice Age, sea levels were 400 feet lower than what they are right now. 400 feet. And where do people build cities? On ocean front, or by water sources. It's very easy to speculate or to even believe that a lot of lost cities are buried under the ocean, 400 feet below, because that's a massive freaking drop in water level, a massive rise. And we're still coming. It's nice, because they talk about climate change or global warming. And, just humans have an impact? Well, of course, probably, on some scale they do, but this shit's always freaking existed. And we're still coming out of an ice age. We're still gradually getting a little bit warmer because we're still coming out of one. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. She's got me into it, but Rebecca is deep into it. She could give a summit just on her own based on the stuff.
Sounds like you picked
knows.
up a few things while you've been up there, though.
Yeah, well, most of the stuff I picked up just because if we take a drive, she wants to listen to one of these podcasts with Randall Carlson, with I forget the Australian guy's name, but he was great, man, because he talked about the architecture. When you look at the statues, the Egyptian statues, how perfectly symmetrical they are. They're absolutely perfect. If you were to take a split screen of one of the pharaohs, for instance, the giant megaliths carved out of stone, you were to split screen it and then erase this half and then reverse this one, boom, you'd have an identical copy of it on the other side, like identical. How in the hell is that freaking possible? I don't think stone carvers could do that crap today. And then polish marble. How the hell do you polish marble? And then how do you drill holes in it when they didn't have drills? Because apparently all they had was, some cheap metal knives and stones and crap like that. but there are drill holes through 2 feet of marble, and the serrations on the edges are not identifiable to any tool we have now, diamond or otherwise. So yeah, cool shit, man. I just think that we've kind of like a lot of stuff, we accept what the mainstream, tells us. We accept it. It's worth the listen. I think the one probably worth listen is when, like, maybe when one of the Rogan podcasts where both Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock are on together. But when I was talking to Randall about his podcast, I mentioned, I said, yeah, I was on Rogan too. And he's like, oh shit, cool. Whoa, damn. Now we're like Pizos, we were like buddies, because he's been on 6 times, I think, because Rogan he's absolutely intrigued and fascinated by this shit. He knows so much about it because he's had so many of these guys on. He's had probably a dozen of these guys on speaking about the same type of stuff, and they're all parallel, to they all, like the Younger Dryas 100%, and the prehistory civilizations, and the cataclysmic events, they're all kind of parallel. There was some shit I didn't understand, like I never heard of Carolina Bays, and there was a speaker talking about those yesterday with the use of a IDAR now instead of radar.
That's something about like ice, right? That was like
right. Well, that's the speculation. And to me, I think it's bullshit. I think it's more of a comet. And we live in a cosmic shooting gallery. Earth is a sitting freaking duck. The shit has hit us before. It's going to hit us again. I mean, and we talk about, it is possible for us to intervene in space, but we're not doing anything about it. It's not like we're building freaking rocket ships and stuff to send a nuke up there and blow these things up in space. But the Carolina Bays, I think it's more feasible for something, a big meteor to come down and hit the atmosphere at an angle and blow up, because, when shit hits the atmosphere, it'll just blow most shit up. Some stuff will pass through it. But I'm thinking, blew up something, maybe even a huge chunk of space ice. And then because the trajectory where all these Carolina Bays all over the United States, they all orient in the same direction. They're all oblong, but they all orient toward like Michigan, all of them. It's freaking crazy stuff, man. And we all know that they exist, but with the use of IDAR, from airplanes instead of the radar. And when you map it out, you can see how many of them there are across the continental US. But they all have that in common. They're all relatively the same size. And what these Carolina Bays are, they're just small, I would say small depressions in the Earth's surface. And most of them are not visible to the eye, because a lot of them have like lakes in them and stuff now, or they're just grown over with farm fields. But when you hit it with the IDAR, it's like, holy shit, they are everywhere. They're everywhere. And they all orient in the same direction across the US. And they all orient toward like Michigan, something like that. Yeah. So the speculation with one of these guys, and he's kind of a goofball. He's poopy pants with Graham Hancock, says that a massive meteor hit the ice shelf during the last ice age, because that ice shelf was 2 miles thick. 2 miles, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So it hit that, boom, and sent chunks of ice up into the atmosphere, refroze, and came back down. But I mean, to send a freaking chunk of ice a couple thousand miles or 1,000 miles, I don't know.
Sounds like guesswork.
Yeah, that was total, and it is right now. The Carolina Bays is total guesswork. They're still working on it, but I like that they're working on it, and
sure.
And these big heads need to do is come to a consensus and then start focusing their energy in that direction, and then agreeing, hey, let's not drink anybody's Kool-Aid. If it doesn't pan out, let's shit can that idea and go to alternative B. Yeah, it's freaking cool. I nerd out on it. Yeah.